Okay, so now we'll be looking at gerunds and infinitive. And one of the things that I have about choosing the gerunds or the infinitive is the way that some textbooks explain it as with rules. There are some rules that will help us define if we should choose the verb in a gerund or we should put it in the infinitive form. But really, this comes with practice. There are some rules that we can learn, and then that will help you. That will help you. But most of these are after exposure. Okay, through exposure we will learn these. So reading, writing, listening, speaking is going to help us define it a bit better for future. Okay, so infinitives, we're talking about verbs, okay, that are the base form. Okay, so for example, go, jump, run. Okay, and we use infinitives when we want to add more information to what is expressed in certain verbs or verb plus object combinations, adjectives, and nouns or expressions, including any of these mentioned. Okay, we also use it to explain the reason for something or its purpose or function. Okay. Also as subjects and complements, and in certain tense forms that this will depend on the grammar. If we're talking about the present, if we're talking about the past, with if, for example, in the past we know that we have did and or didn't, and then the verb in infinitive form. So really this defines how you when you talk about the grammar. When we look at gerunds, on the other case, we're talking about verbs that end in ing. So, for example, running, jumping, going, all of those. Okay, so these we tend to use to add information to what is expressed in certain verbs plus and verb plus object combinations. Okay, when we want to use a verb after a preposition, okay, that verb following the preposition will always be in ing. So, for example, we've got, is she still interested in dancing? Okay, so she's not interested in to dance, she's interested in dancing. Okay, we can also use the subjects and complements. Okay, very common at the beginning of clauses and sentences to list activities, to add information to what is expressed in a clause and in continuous tenses. So, for example, present continuous goes with the verb to be and the verb in ing, or the verb in gerund form. Okay. The important thing about these is just some rules that helps you identify them. You don't need to really learn them. As teachers, unfortunately, we have to know these, but really, this detailed information is just for those of you who find it useful. If you don't find it useful, then, as I always say, put it aside, take what's good for you, and leave the rest. Okay, so when we're trying to define between if we choose the gerund form or which is the infinitive, there are some things that we can at least look at. Okay, after some verbs and expressions, we'll be looking at that shortly. All right, so after prepositions, always verb in ing. After verbs of preference, so for example, I like going skiing. It's not I like go skiing. It's I like going skiing. Okay. So when we use these verbs of preference and we choose the gerund form, it means that we are talking about something in general. Okay, so I like the idea of skiing. Okay, so I like skiing when we don't know. I like going skiing. Whereas the infinitive, we'll be looking at shortly also after some verbs and some expressions. Okay, the use of infinitive without to or modal verbs. Okay, so for example, can go is not can going or can to go. Another very common mistake is for students to put must and with to. Must to go. No, you must go. Okay. So with modal verbs, we use the modal verb and the verb in infinitive. We do not put to. Then, as we saw in the gerund form, we can also use after verbs of preference, but here is the meaning is slightly different. Okay. So, for example, I like to go skiing in July. We're being more specific. When do you like going skiing? Well, I like to go in July. All right. So when we're talking about more general, more open type of things, we use the gerund form, and when we talk about specific occasions, we use the to and infinitive. Sometimes there is also a difference in meaning. All right. So, for example, these are some of the verbs that change the meaning. Change the meaning according to what if you decide to follow by using a gerund or using an infinitive form. So, I remember going to Venice as a child. It means that you do something, then you remember it. Where if I say remember to lock the door, you remember and then you do it. So the difference things here is in the order. What came first? Here is I went to Venice and then I remember. Here is lock the door, remember first and then lock the door. Okay. Here with forget, I'll never forget seeing the Taj Mahal. You did something and you won't forget it. Sorry, I forgot to do it. You didn't remember to do something. Okay, so very similar with a remember. If you have a look at try calling Miriam on her mobile. You're going to experiment to see if something is happening, if something's going to work. All right? Whereas I tried to open the window, you made an effort to do something. Whether to succeed or not is different, but you tried. Okay? Need, the car needs cleaning. We use it for more of a passive construction, like for example, the car needs to be cleaned. Whereas you need to clean the car, you see something and you do it. Okay? So these are some of the slight differences, how the meaning is changed according to if you choose the gerund or if you choose the infinitive form. And as promised, although I do not approve of this method, some people believe that it's helpful for them. Here, each one of you can choose. Okay? Because with gerunds and infinitives, depending on the word that precedes it is how the verb that follows is going to be constructed. If it's going to be in the gerund, ing form, or if you're going to use to infinitive. So for example, after, admit, adore, appreciate, avoid, can't, face, or all the way up to understand, always the verbs will be followed by verb in ing. Whereas for, going to, many verbs followed by to, concerning the future. Okay, so for example, want, wish, agree, plan. They're followed by to and the verb in infinitive. Okay, so I hope this was useful for all of you. Remember below you have the link to the different exercises. Have a look at it. We'll be looking at it in class also, so we'll polish up some of your questions that you've got and well, enjoy.